Hello, everybody. Nice to see you again. I hope you've had a good weekend. Mine was peaceful, a bit busy, because as I stated in my last video, I'd been sitting around for a while trying to figure out where to put my Christmas tree this year. And no, I didn't put it up yet. But I did figure out where I wanted it to go. So, in anticipation of that, I spent this morning rearranging my furniture, which I will show you, the arrangement I've come to in a future video, especially as so many of you have been kind enough to tell me how much you love my house, the way it looks and how cozy it looks and stuff. So today is Sunday, and you can probably tell from the light. It's dry, it's sunny, but it's really cold. It's been really cold. However, as long as it's dry and sunny, your girl can deal, okay? Even with the arthritis. So I have been watching last night and today, and I'm almost done with it today. And this is something I've watched before. It's something from the 80s, a mini series from the 80s. Remember the 80s? With the big hair and the shoulder pads and the dance skins and, all of that. There's an author whom you may or may not have heard of named Thomas Thompson. And in the 80s, he was quite popular. He wrote several books that were made into movies and or miniseries. And what I've been watching is one of his most popular books called Celebrity by Thomas Thompson. And in 1984, they made this into a 3-part miniseries. And it's brilliant. It's one of those series that sticks close to the novel. I'm a bit of a snob. When you deviate from the novel in making a film or a miniseries, I get pissed off. Anyway, this is the story of 3 childhood friends, and it begins in 1950, Fort Worth, Texas. These are 3 friends. There is Kleber Cantrell, who is the brain of the group, and the brain, throughout school, elementary, junior high, high school. He is the acknowledged smart person, the one who is going to go far. And then the second friend is Mac Cantrell, and he's the golden boy. He's the best looking guy of the group, the most athletic guy of the group, and the girls love him. And then, last but not least, because the story centers on him as you move forward, there's TJ Cantrell, who is the bad boy of the group. There's always a bad boy. Think about 1950s Texas. TJ does a lot of things that you're not meant to do in the 1950s, but he is kind of cute, and the girls like him too, though not as much as they like Mac, the football star. So on the eve of their high school graduation, there's meant to be a picnic. a huge picnic, which these three boys are looking forward to attending. However, and this is way before climate change, a sudden storm arises and washes the picnic out. But the three guys, it's the night before they graduate from high school. They still want to party, so they're trying to figure out something they can do. And meanwhile, on the other side of Fort Worth, there's a young girl named Lori whose mother works as a prostitute. And her mother comes home that night with the cowboys she met in the bar, and she tells Lori to get out. It's raining. Did I mention it was storming? There was a storm. But Lori leaves, and she decides, because the one thing Lori likes more than anything, she's kind of like me that way, is movies. So she decides she's going to walk to the next town to see William Holden and Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. So she's walking to the next town in this rainstorm to try and get to the cinema. And she gets picked up from a guy who knows her mom. And at first she resists getting into the truck, but it's pouring, so she gets into the truck, and she's like, okay, you can ride me to the cinema. Meantime, on the other side of town, our three heroes, Mac, TJ, and Kleber, they've decided that they're going to go to the abandoned house owned by Kleber's uncle and just get drunk. So they buy all this beer and booze and stuff, and they show up at this house, this little old shack in the woods, and they're partying, just the three of them, when they suddenly hear a scream. And they go out on the front porch, and they see a girl in a ripped dress running. Lori manages to escape from the acquaintance of her mom, who, you know how it goes, it's the movies after all. He attempts to rape her, but she manages to hit him in the side of the face with a beer bottle that he's drinking from in the truck, and she escapes. Unfortunately, she runs into these three boys. Unfortunately, I should amend this, because it's not the three boys. Kleber and Mac, they're good kids, What she runs into is TJ, who, to make a long story short, and I'm sure you probably know where the story is going, he rapes her. But he's unaware that she has, like, this heart problem, and she dies. So afterwards, the three of them, they make a pact. We will never, ever, ever tell anybody what happened. And they dispose of the body. They think they've disposed of the body. And in the intervening years, and this is why it's a 3-part miniseries, Kleber becomes really famous. Kleber is the smart one, as I stated. He becomes really famous as a journalist. Mac is on the road to fame as a famous football player, but he gets hurt in a game, and it's always questionable as to whether or not he deliberately made a move during this game that resulted in his quite severe injury. TJ, the bad boy, does not get famous. TJ ends up in and out of jail for various low-level offenses. And he's always resented his other two friends as they've gotten older for their successes. So this film is basically about what happens amongst the three friends as the years pass, and how ultimately retribution arrives for what was done to the girl TJ raped on that fateful night of the graduation party. Because even though his friends didn't participate in the rape, they were known as accessories after the fact because they never told anybody. It's a really, really good mini-series. There were a lot of good things, in terms of films and mini-series that came out of the 80s. So I'm like, rewatching this brought me, it made me happy because I remembered the first time I watched it. And I had the book long before they made it into a mini series. And I remember thinking to myself, they should make this into a movie. But it's kind of a big book. Not as big as some Stephen King novels, but it was kind of a big book. So when they made it into a 3-part miniseries, I was delighted, and I have to say, they did a good job. So that's how I've spent a cold, sunny Sunday in November. If you want to watch it, and you should, because it's good, and you can get it on YouTube. Just type in Celebrity Thomas Thompson miniseries, and it will pop up. And that's it for me. I'm going to go chill out and sit on the sofa and think, did I get it right? Because I did tell you at the beginning, I spent the morning rearranging furniture in anticipation of Christmas and putting up the Christmas tree. So, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. If you have something to celebrate, then do it with all your heart and soul, because life is short. And those little moments that mean a lot to you should be celebrated. If you are grieving, and I have a friend who unfortunately is grieving, grief is a funny thing, You learn to live with it, and it pops up at weird times, It's a smell, it's a song, it's a totally banal moment, like when you're making the bed or having a shower. But if you're grieving, know that you learn to live with it, and like the Bible says, blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And that's it for your girl. I'm out. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to my channel, What Did Kathy Watch? Thank you for allowing me into your homes for a little bit of time. And as always, please, because I'm fond of all of you, please stay safe and live well.